So, at the time of me recording this, patch 10.0.0 just dropped and wow! No one was expecting them to drop this many kits and a new map with such short notice. And while the quality varies a lot on each kit, the highlight of this for me was definitely on the planet's Big Swig Roller. I've always wanted Torpedo on this thing, but Splashdown was not on my bingo card. Upon further thought though, I realized that this actually works out really nicely. But then that got me thinking about Big Swig as a whole, and it's left me wondering, do people still think Big Swig sucks? It's consistently been rated as one of the worst weapons in the game for a very long time. After making a bad first impression, it's been really hard for players to be interested in it at all. But I personally disagree. I think that Big Swig as a main weapon is a lot better than people give it credit for. And I've been saying this for a very long time, but I don't think enough people were ready for that conversation yet. So now, I'm here to talk about it. Do note that I am not an active competitor in the scene, but I have been following it for a while, and have participated in the occasional tournament here and there. And I've also asked my friend Baja Blast for some more intel, so that way I can get a better understanding of how high level players think. Subscribe if you enjoy, and let's talk about Big Swig. I think it's fair to talk about the traits of the main weapon first. More specifically, let's talk about the 3 moves it's able to do. The horizontal flick is what this weapon is most known for, specifically because of its main weakness. It is the only roller flick in the game that can't do 100 damage or higher. All other rollers have the benefit of being able to somewhat reliably one-shot with a horizontal flick if people get too close, with varying degrees of success. But Big Swig can only do a maximum of 70 damage, so we'll never be able to do that. A major weakness of the weapon, since it significantly reduces its time to splat. But what does it get in return? Quite a lot actually. The amount of paint this flick puts down is ridiculous. It can single-handedly neutralize some of the smaller zones in the game. In a main weapons only environment, this could be a contender for the best painter in the game. Even if the damage isn't too great, it also has one of the biggest hitboxes in the game. You only need to aim in someone's general direction, and you're very likely to hit them if there's no obstacle. Granted, these hits are likely to only do 40 damage, but that is a very nice damage number to combo with other stuff. The flick is also pretty fast for its size. It's fast enough that it's able to cover a lot of ink on the ground really fast, and makes it surprisingly difficult to approach by shorter range weapons, since they're very likely to get shipped before getting in range, and are likely to get splattered before they get close enough. But sometimes you will simply just get rushed too fast and the horizontal isn't fast enough to save you. Or maybe you could use a little bit more range. That's where the vertical flick comes in. Unlike the horizontal flick, this one actually maxes out at 120 damage, and it can apply it at a pretty respectable range. You can use it as a last ditch effort if someone's rushing you down, you can go aggressive and get a splat on someone at a reasonable distance, and its 40 damage range is honestly really high, so you can use it to apply some genuine pressure at a distance, and that combos extremely well with some of the more popular weapons. Its paint is not as good as the horizontal, but it is a far-reaching straight line, so you can use it as a pseudo-curling bomb for mobility purposes as well. However, its combat uses are very limited by how thin the flick is. Even after being buffed, it is still the hardest vertical flick to land in the game, so you need to be very skilled to actually land it, and even then it's inconsistent, since you need to have a good read on your opponent's movement. Don't over-rely on it, or it will fail you. And of course, there's the roll, which is honestly very situational, but that's a given for rollers. Its paint trail is pretty wide, and the ink efficiency is great, but the horizontal already paints really well, so you won't be using the roll outside of some thin hallways. The best use the other rollers have for this is being able to camp super jump, but Swigs only does 70 damage, so it can't even do that, which is a big blow for this move. However, it does have one good use. If you hit a horizontal at point blank and keep rolling, you can actually combo the flick and the roll for a quick kill. It's risky, and you won't get it all the time, but the situation happens surprisingly often. Sometimes it can be more reliable than lining up a vertical flick, and sometimes someone may catch you by surprise mid horizontal flick, so this could be enough to actually force a trade if you don't have time for another horizontal flick. One last quality about the current state of the main weapon I want to talk about is the fact that this thing has insane object damage. Ever since patch 3.0.0, this thing has been able to just shred through objects extremely fast. Per object shredder with it, and getting up close to a crab can sometimes become a winning matchup for you. It's genuinely insane. So, why do people say this weapon's bad? Well, it's a multitude of factors really. For one, the horizontal flick being unable to do 100 damage is a big hit. Even if it has a lot of other good qualities, that is a lot of pressure of the class just gone in an instant. Its time to splat got significantly worse because of this, and a lot of people decided to write off Swig because of that alone. But that's not the only factor. The weapon itself also had a lot more weaknesses at launch. I mentioned the object damage was part of a patch, which means that its original object damage was pretty bad. The minimum damage of the main weapon was 30 on launch. Its ink efficiency was rough. It frankly still kind of is, but gear can mitigate it a bit. The vertical swings were even thinner, and the damage falloff was horrible on it. It's been exclusively buffed and not nerfed a single time. Not even a point for special nerf at any point. In fact, they got buffed the first two kits. Speaking of kits, that's another weakness the weapon had for a long time. The two kits it had for so long are pretty bad. I am someone who loves Angle Shooter and Inkback, as I've talked about the former countless times, and even I agree that they weren't good choices for the weapon. I see the logic, but it didn't pan out, and I had no idea what the fuck they would do with Splash Ball. I do really like the ink storm on it, but having it on the same kit as Dart was not great. And to be fair, on my first impression of the weapon, I also used to believe it was horrible. It also does not help that the very first Anarchy open rotation on its release was on tower control. By far the worst mode for Big Swig. So if first impressions on it were already bad, this was just the icing on the cake. All of these factors added together, and it's easy to see why people do not consider this weapon very good, and haven't for a very long time. But I do think there's another factor here. You might have noticed the mismatch of qualities between the horizontal and vertical flick, the substance specials in the kits, and you're probably wondering what role Swig is even supposed to play. A lot of the elements on both kits could make you lean one way or the other. And it's hard to push a weapon that seems to have an identity crisis with this many weaknesses over to something that's a lot more established and consistent. This isn't helped by the fact that the only thing that helps it be a fighter in the first two kits is Angle Shooter, which means that it is really hard to push up aggressively. As a result, players are more incentivized to stack into the aspect that it can do better and reliably, which is paint. Unfortunately, we are in a fighting focus meta, and have been for a very long time. If a weapon can't fight, but it can paint, then it better be painting for a worthwhile special, which the current Swig kits do not have that. Neo, Splash, and Junior also struggle to fight, but they paint a lot and get a shit ton of triple ink strikes and bubbles, which are some of the best specials in the game. Swig specials do not get nearly as much value. Thankfully, some of this has been mitigated at least a little bit by the Planet's Big Swig kit, which does give it good tools to fight. But then it brings the question of if this is the intended playstyle of the weapon as a whole. So, what is Swig meant to be? Honestly, I feel that you can get away with going either path at a moment's notice. The tools of the main weapon are there to be able to hold an area strongly. Its pain output means that it's able to help teammates get in for both turfing and special outposts. And especially with the Planet's Big Swig release, it's very easy to combo damage with your torpedo and triple splashdown for a way more aggressive take on it. This reminds me a bit of the Dreadbringer, since both of them have a surprising amount of similarities. They both have some of the best speed in the game and have pretty good AoE. Swig's AoE is bigger, but Dread's does more damage from further away, so they do have the differences. Dread can play supported with the new Susie Dreadbringer, Horns Dreadbringer, and Planet Swig can play more aggressively with the triple splashdown. They can even fit into similar comps, which, speaking of, here's some ideas. Because Big Swig is so AoE, it really wants to play alongside a blaster of some kind. The new Rapid Pro Winter is a really good option for it, since an indirect shot from it means that a close range horizontal will kill, while a direct shot makes any part of your swing kill. It can also double as your cooler option, and can be very nice for things just outside of range. The rest of the team can feed into this as well. The new Stamper will be a more aggressive option, but the combo numbers are still pretty similar. I specifically chose the Sticker Stamper instead of the vanilla one, because I can use Booyah Bomb as an entry special, which Zipcaster can't really do. The last member could be something like a dually. Either the Crab one for easier retakes, or the Bubble one for holding an area strongly, but I'm leaning more towards the Bubble one right now due to this comp wanting to play fast, and also Fizzy Bomb helping a lot with pain. And these are just a few ideas. The new Dreadbringer could be nice for it as well. Maybe you could run a Red Dapple for double cooler on maps like Flounder Heights. You could have S-Blast be your main aggressor and still have good combo numbers. And there's a lot of other combinations you could try out. Admittedly, not all molds are as friendly to the Big Swig. I've mentioned prior that Tower Control is by far its worst mode, since the Tower Pole makes even the horizontal hitbox very unforgiving to it. But the other modes are much better for it. Its area coverage means that it is capable of hitting some more sizable zones with very little effort. Its insane object damage makes it an excellent option against the Rainmaker barrier, and while it's not incredible at clams, you can still cover a lot of area to help your team get in, and you can even do the pseudo curling bomb with the vertical in order to get in yourself, so it's not horrible. As for maps, you definitely want to play it mostly on short-range favorite maps. Stuff like Flounder, Urchin, Mako, Humpback, those kinds of maps are best for this weapon. It can be okay on some balance maps, but it can struggle against some long-range options, so do be careful. Now, do I think this weapon's a secret top tier? No, not really. At the end of the day, the first two kits limited so much, and even if the third kit is still a massive improvement, Splashdown simply isn't a special that you see much in the top tier slots. Farming a lot of Splashdowns isn't as strong as getting a lot of coolers, crafts, strikes, etc. What I do think is that the weapon is still better than people give it credit for. At the absolute worst, I say it's somewhere in the mid tier, but if we're optimistic, I'd say somewhere in the middle high tier. But realistically, top of mid tier is probably about right. Maybe bottom of high tier, but that might be pushing it. Though I genuinely believe that if a dedicated Swig player really wanted to, they could push this weapon really far. Anyways, that's it for this video, and this is one I really wasn't expecting to make, but I'm happy I took the opportunity to do so. I gotta spread the Swig propaganda everywhere I can, because this weapon is better than many people think. What are your opinions on Big Swig? Do you still think it sucks? Did I convince you? Or were you always a believer? Let me know in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it, thank you all so much for watching, and take care.